Hey there, Merry Christmas. Dan, the culinary libertarian here. I'm going to mix the Italian glazed butter cookies. This is my, down here I've made some notes. It's a big batch, 5 eggs. I've cut it down for 3 eggs. I'm gonna get everything mixed here. I think this is one of those kinds of cookies that it's just outside of what we would normally expect. So sometimes a little help is a good thing to have. I'm going to get mixing and talk about what's going on in the bowl without the mixer being on because it's loud and who wants that? One of the things that's interesting about this anise cookie is it's mixed more in the way that a cake is mixed. The creaming still happens, the butter, cream that in the bowl till the lumps are gone and it's on the side. Add the sugar and cream that fairly well, which is sometimes not usually the case for cookies. It sort of depends on the cookie. But the thing that's interesting here is adding, after the eggs, then add the flour with the milk, just like in a cake. So it's a bit different that way, and if you've eaten these cookies, if you've seen them in an Italian bakery, you walk in, it's just, I love the smell of an anise cookie filling up the entire bakery. I probably told this story in the blog. When I walked into one bakery in the North End in Boston, wow, it was just, oh, yeah, it was fun. So I'm going to make them, and I'm looking forward to them being fun. So I'm going to mix, and we'll take a few pictures along the way just to see, and then we'll go. All right, so the sugar and butter have been creamed, and I'm going to read the recipe. It reads, cream paddled butter with granulated sugar until creamy. What does that mean? It's one of those weird, it's not meaningless, but it's not wholly informative. If you go back to the cookie podcast, culinarylibertarian.com/64, I address some of those things. What does it mean? So I've gone for double the volume, and it's sort of hard to tell, but that's compared to how it was, that's creamy. Could it be creamier? Yeah, I think that there's a point of just diminished returns. For the 3 or 4 more minutes, I might mix it. I'm not sure I'm going to get 3 or 4 minutes more quality out of the cookie for that. On my stand mixer, it's kind of cool today since it's the middle of December in the north. I think maybe any time at 5 minutes or so just to get that nice little bit of volume to it. Next is going to go the eggs and then the flavoring, and I love these things. So this particular one has a half a teaspoon measure, which is what I've calculated I need. A little extra, but I love them for the handiness. They're teaspoons. They tip when you put it in. You have to. You can overmeasure accidentally and then pour it back in, and you're all set. And nearly everybody who's got a kid has one of these things hanging around. So off 2 eggs and flavoring, and then the flour and the half and half. Now I did say milk earlier, and that's a choice. You could use milk or you can use half and half. I'm going with the higher fat half and half because, cookies, baby. All right, so a note or two about mixing this kind of cookie, or really probably any kind of a cookie, in cold weather. So recipes read butter at room temperature. If your room is 65 degrees, well, that's room temperature, so what do? Well, the act of beating it in the bowl is going to give it some friction, but there's a good possibility that your butter sugar mix, when you add that first egg and add eggs one at a time, mine sort of went bloop bloop, followed each other, and that presents an interesting complication, but not a problem. The egg whites, as far as the cookie dough is concerned, the butter is fat and the egg whites are water. Now, there's more to it than that, but the butter doesn't care. As far as it knows, it's water, and it's not going to be happy trying to absorb the water. That's what the egg yolk is for. The egg yolk, it has lecithin, and that's sort of the negotiator between the two. It makes those two things, water and fat, emulsify, and it makes everybody happy. So even with the lecithin from all 3 eggs, the cold butter and the water, there was still a few pieces of butter in there. Now, I put a little bit of extra time on the mix, maybe another minute, and it pulled it together, which I expected to happen, but because it's cold, there's still a few little hunks of butter. The problem is easy to remedy, and that starts with adding the flour. So because now, if your recipe, say you're making a chocolate chip cookie, and most chocolate chip cookie recipes, or probably peanut butter or oatmeal raisin, are going to say add all the flour at one time, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. If I would suggest, on a day like today, where it's cold and your butter after the eggs still isn't fully homogenized, add a little bit of flour first, mix it for 5 or 10 seconds until the water absorbs into the flour, and then that stiffness is going to help pull the rest of the butter into the batter, then add the rest of your flour. So because this procedure is a little bit different, it's flour, milk, half and half, I do have a small bit of half and half to go. When mixing cakes that take this step-by-step process, a lot of them do flour in thirds and the milk in halves, but that leaves you with no liquid at the end. So my recommendation is to start with the flour, end with the milk, so thirds of each, which is what I'm going to end up doing in a minute here. But what I've got now is a pretty, so I told you, cake-like, but a nice smooth dough. And I'm going to add the flour, add the other half and half, the eggs and the flavoring are in there, and then it gets sort of in a containerized for at least a half an hour because it needs to set back up. Because if it's like cake, well, you can't handle it, and that drives cooks enough crazy as it is. So I'm going to make life easy. Now, I'll probably do this because the kids are away. Have to sample some. Tough job. So let me finish this, and we'll take a look at the finished dough, and then we're going to cool and then bake. All right, it is done, and it is everything I expected it to be. It is very thick, cake-like. It's like a soft cookie dough, which it is. So it's going to go into this bowl, and then it's going to go into the refrigerator for a little bit, just to let it rest. Now, obviously, cold isn't the thing I'm looking for. In part, well, a little bit I am. But what I really want is the hydration of the flour, and then the whole cookie dough to become this better homogeneous mix, so that when it's baked, I get a nicer cookie. And then we're going to do the dipping and the glazing, which is the same thing. And then I bought Christmas nonpareils instead of the rainbow ones because, you know, it's that time of the year. So off to the cooler, and we'll be up. Hey there. So maybe you can tell it has turned nighttime here. We had this dinner thing in between. So the dough is well chilled, and I'm going to use a little teeny scooper about that size. And the reason is it's going to bake about that big. So it's about, half again as big, which is just about the size I want. I think too much is going to be, well, too much. So, have I told you before? Oh. Hey, I hate them. You can tell I can't stand it. I don't have the glaze ready, but I wanted to see how big it got, and it got nice and brown, beautiful color. 10 minutes or so is about right. That may change when I have a lot on a pan, but happy, happy days. So I'm going to bake a bunch of these. They're going to cool. Tomorrow I'm going to glaze them, and then, hang on. Can't really tell. Christmassy sprinkles, red, green, and white. Because, again, it's the season. So anyway, I'm going to bake, and I'm going to snack. Hello! All right, welcome back. As you can see, I have a couple dozen here already baked, and I've made the glaze. So if you do as I did and reduce the quantity of everything, the glazed quantity, of course, is less too. The directions read, put it into a mixing bowl, You don't really need to do that. So I just did the sugar, the water, the corn syrup, brought that to a boil for a second or two. It reads 30 seconds, really long enough to dissolve the granulated sugar. Take it off the heat, let it cool a little bit, then whisk the powdered sugar into that base, and you're going to get, come on, be nice, that, which is what you want to have. So now, I'm making a mess. It doesn't make a lot, so, and I was thinking that this would be, this would be a really good glaze for donuts. But for now, we're doing cookies. So this is a messy job. Hands, and I've got my sprinkles at the ready. I'm putting the cooling rack is on, the sheet pan, and I've put the Silpat under it just for a place for the glaze to sort of drip onto. It's easier to clean the Silpat than the pan. That's actually probably not really true, but it makes me feel organized. So I'm using a little wetting cake stick to stir, and into the glaze it goes. And then oh man, oh man, oh man. They look nice. So a little bit of glaze. A fair amount dripping off because as it's sitting and gravity is doing its drippy, pulley thing, it's still a little warm, I think. And that's easier to reheat is just to put it back on a low heat. We don't want to burn it, but just to get some easy flow of the glaze into our pan. Wow. Man, oh man, this is fun. This is happy, happy, happy. All right, so that's it. So happy baking. Kind of messy, but at the end of all of this, you can lick your fingers clean. You can even put them in the sprinkles first. But Dan said to. Yeah, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Just because I said it doesn't mean you have to do it. All right, I'm going to go finish this, and then I'm going to enjoy one and probably giggle even more because, well, by golly, these are fun cookies. Enjoy.